for you. For their 3 preseason games this year, they averaged over 11 penalties for nearly 100 yards. For context, the average NFL team commits 7 penalties per game for 51 yards. So that's hurting them almost twice as much as an average team would be hurt. Immediately, you were shaking your head like crazy.
Yeah, because Jerry Jones said to him in January, hey, here's the answers to the test. Clock management has to get better. Penalties have to get better. If I'm Coach McCarthy, I'm going to cut a guy and not let him fly home with the team. You have to do something drastic. Cut a guy, bench a guy. That is unacceptable. Like, here are the answers to the test. You want to be the head coach of the Cowboys? You can't be penalized. It's the one thing he didn't fix.
I mean, we don't like to make a big deal of things that happen in the preseason, but when they are a continuation of the exact problem that you had the year before, it's impossible to ignore. What are you seeing as you watch this?
Well, the Cowboys, first of all, aren't talented enough to play with a lack of discipline. And I can come on television this season and blame or reason some of the losses on poor offensive line play and injuries. I can't do it over penalties. I can't do that for Mike McCarthy and the Dallas Cowboys. I can't come on a Monday and say, well, they lost because they had 27 penalties and that's what the reason was. I can sit here and say Dak Prescott struggled because he doesn't have a left tackle anymore. The injuries of their offensive line had added up. The wild thing to me is this is a controllable. You are going to lose your job for something that is within your control. And Greeny, to your point in the preseason, Daniel Jeremiah and I were talking a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about player performances. And he made a great point saying, listen, we shouldn't become joyous when a good player performs well in the preseason. Nope. That should be the expectation.
Yeah.
But we should pay attention to when good players struggle. And if this is a good football team that is struggling with penalties, it's not just going to magically go away.
I don't know who can win in this league with a bunch of unforced errors, but I know the Cowboys, with the way their roster looks right now, I agree with you completely. They cannot afford to give away yards like this. This matters a lot. And look, I don't know, to your point, like the Cowboys situation is obviously unique. I don't know how much power the head coach of the Cowboys has to cut a guy, quite frankly. But the fact of the matter is he's on trial this year for his job. Like at the end of this year, if they're leading the league in penalties again and they miss the playoffs, he's probably out.
And the whole idea of cutting a guy, I want to make sure it's clear to the audience what it is we're talking about, and I will do so with an illustration, with a story that I remember. Once upon a time when Mike Ditka was the coach of the Bears, there was stuff going on in training camp that he didn't like. So he walked into the players' locker room, took all the stuff out of one guy's locker and threw it in the street. And that's how he cut that player, and he did so as a message. Now, again, he didn't do that to Walter Payton. Okay? Right. But he did that to a player he was going to cut anyway, but he did it as a statement that we're not going to put up with this nonsense here. That's what Tannenbaum is talking about.
And I understand that and I agree with that. My pushback would be this. If the Cowboys are going to sit here and tell us, and by all accounts their leadership is great, this becomes a players thing. Like, guys, at some point we got to be professionals. Let's be adults, and I can't always make your run after practice because you got Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, Diggs, DeMarcus Lawrence. Those guys have to start kind of handling this and self-policing it themselves, because at some point the coaches, you cutting the 79th guy on the roster in preseason, I don't know how much that is going to impact us really getting rid of penalties.
But you could bench a guy. You could bench a first-round pick, Tyler Smith. You could bench a corner that's fair.
Yeah. That's fair. I agree with that.
And as a player, you know that gets your attention.
For sure. Absolutely.
And if they lead the league in penalties and miss the playoffs, they're not firing Dak Prescott. Like, I mean, Mike McCarthy's going to have to wear this.
But again, this should be so much more about a job security. Yeah. Dude, you're a team that won 12 games last year. You want us to take you as a bona fide, legit division champ and Super Bowl contender.
Is nothing like what we're going to see in the regular season. Mike McDaniel's not tipping his hand, but you see him here throwing it to Tyreek Hill, and that's a big deal. Every time Tua throws it deep, everybody's going to react. Some people are going to say he can do it. Some people are going to say, look, Tyreek came back for the ball. He doesn't have the arm. The fact of the matter is, the Dolphins believe they've built something around Tua Tagovailoa that puts him in a position to succeed, and at the end of this season, they feel like they'll have a solid evaluation of him based on that.
All right, so let's put him in position for us to really evaluate it. Dan, as we watch Tua, we just saw that long throw there to Tyreek, and I will admit, and maybe this is just the way we've become conditioned to think. My first thought was,
don't do it.
A ball's underthrown.
Yeah.
My first thought is that ball is underthrown. He has to stop running to catch it.
Brutal, man.
Right, it's underthrown. It's okay. Not everybody can throw it that way.
All right, this is what I want people at home to see, though. The speed of Tyreek Hill breeds confidence in the quarterback in Tua Tagovailoa. And seeing when this ball comes out of his hands is a big deal. That's Tyreek at the bottom of the screen. This is the first play of the game. He's going to run an inside release go route. Tua's throwing the ball basically right now from the 17-yard line. Now, see where the defenders are. When this ball is getting thrown, that defender is another 2 yards still behind Tyreek Hill. But Tua's like, I don't care. I'm going to trust and just throw this ball basically as far as I can. Last year, Tua doesn't make that throw. But this year, because of the trust in the speed of Tyreek Hill,
but he's taking the top off of the coverage. There's no one. He should throw the ball as far as he can and have
that
Tyreek
ball goes 55 yards in the air.
And if it's 57, it's a touchdown. That's the difference.
But here's the thing. You people, no, everyone, because I saw it yesterday, you're like, well, if this was Patrick Mahomes, it's a touchdown. Yeah, no, duh. He ain't Patrick Mahomes, guys. He's not one of the most talented players we've ever seen at the position. The ball still goes 55 yards in the air.
As you all know, the margin of error in winning games, that can be the difference between 7 and 3 points, and that's why there's still a big question mark about Tua. Can he get the ball down the field consistently?
You guys are talking like the throw went 30 yards and died. It went 55.
No, but Dan, the comparisons to Mahomes are going to be inevitable because that's who Tyreek left. So people are not just comparing him randomly to the best quarterback in football. They're comparing him to the guy who used to throw that pass.
But that's their fault. That's their problem. I'm not going to compare him to Patrick Mahomes because he's not the same guy, and that's unfair to the quarterback.
I think I liked your point about the confidence because when I talked to Mahomes in training camp last month, he said the difference this year is like I could look at Tyreek Hill and no matter what the play call was, what the read was, I see his matchup. I know he's going to win it. I'm going to throw it to him. Yeah. And I think we see a little bit of that with Tua there. That's what you're talking about.
And it's a little bit of like an ego. There's an ego to it where like I don't really care. Like I'm telling everybody, this ball, he does not throw this ball last year.
Right.
And that ball goes 55 yards in the air. You guys were making it sound like this ball is 30 yards and it dies and Tyreek Hill's got to stop and make it. He bleeds him into the middle of the field a little bit.
No, it's the difference between being good and elite, and that's oftentimes the difference between winning and losing games.
Let me ask you this: Does Drew Brees launch the ball 60+ yards down the field? Was he okay?
But he would have thrown the ball sooner. One of the things that made Drew Brees so great was he was so quick-minded, and he could get rid of the ball. The launch point would have been
Mike T. He threw the ball off one hitch when the defender was 3 yards behind Tyreek. You're not throwing it sooner in the NFL.
So if Tua is going to be Drew Brees, great. No one's going to have a complaint with that. But there's been like one of him ever, and that's the point. Is that what we're all watching now? Is if that player can be what he was drafted to be, then this could be a maybe championship level team is going a step too far, but certainly a very, very good team. And that's what we're all wondering: can he do it or not? Sounds to me like you're saying he can.
And if he does, I mean, look at these plays. I think he's been so comfortable on the bootleg. I mean, you watch some of these throws when he's on the move. These aren't easy throws. That ball fake, he's rolling to his left. This ball is absolutely perfect right there. Yeah. On the move, down in the right.
I don't think there's any disagreement that Mike McDaniel will be a really strong impact on how well he plays. I don't think there's any disagreement, but the difference between winning and losing, and again, you go back to Kansas City, Buffalo, Chargers, and Cincinnati. Can they score consistently with that group? And that's the big question mark: is can Tua get it down the field consistently?
But that's the thing. Like if you're talking about Mahomes, and I understand it's not a fair comparison, but like that's somebody who elevates beyond the circumstances when things aren't going well. I don't think the Dolphins are expecting or asking Tua to be that guy right now. I think they're going to ask him to function in Mike McDaniel's offense and deliver what's asked of him. But to your point, do you at some point in the season need to be that guy that can make that ludicrous throw, that can elevate beyond the circumstances and when things are going poorly? And we don't know that about him.
And that's a fair question. I don't think he needs to do it as consistently as Patrick Mahomes and or a Justin Herbert are asked to do it.
Sure.
That's one, because the difference in the style of offense, and two, Tua doesn't have the ability to do that.
Right.
And I have said all offseason, please, Tua, just because you have added talent or they've added talent to the roster, don't think you need to go be somebody that you are not. You're not Justin and you're not Patrick. You're not the guy that's going to launch the ball 70 yards downfield because it's 3rd and 16 and you have no other option. You have to be the surgeon-like methodical passer. they're only going to call these plays 4 or 5 times a game, guys.
Yeah,
the Chargers and the Chiefs call it 12.
Here's the problem. What you're saying is 100% right and reasonable.
Sure.
But his lot in life, through no fault of his, is that he was drafted ahead of Justin Herbert and that the receiver came from Kansas City where Mahomes is. And he's the guy that everyone is expecting to elevate the team and the quarterback to the next level. Those are the comparisons, whether they're reasonable or not.
Brady, take that one step further. For them to get to where they want to go, they got to beat Josh Allen. He has to stand toe-to-toe and beat Buffalo, which he's going to have an opportunity to do early this season.
I agree. We're talking about a conference and a division that's pretty good, a conference that's absolutely loaded. This roster, if Tua takes the step forward, like I think he will with, finally solidifying a scheme, a new head coach and play caller and Mike McDaniel, more talent, this is a team that's going to compete for championships. Yeah, absolutely. They are a sleeper when it comes to an AFC division championship and or AFC championship run. He's got to take that step.
We all agree on that. And so if he